So I saw this thread cross my path. The thread I thought was kind of interesting. It's something I want to kind of discuss today. So the thread is this: what special move annoys you the most? So I thought what I would do today is I would review what everyone in the comments section is saying are the most annoying moves. Give a bit of my opinion, and also maybe I thought it'd be useful to offer some advice on ways to try and deal with these moves. So yeah, we're going to be looking at the most annoying moves in Street Fighter 6 today. Also, please hit subscribe. It really helps me out. I'm trying to push for 100k, so yeah, thanks very much. Alright, well, no prizes for guessing what came out on top. Who could possibly have predicted the #1 most upvoted complaint would be my fans, no contest? Okay, let's talk about Mai's fans. So, in my opinion, EX Fan is the best move in the game right now, or at least the best special move in the game right now. I do agree with that. And I think that the reason this move is just so overtuned is because it just gives Mai so many turns on offense purely because she decided to yeet an EX projectile. Like, we already know in Street Fighter 6 that Fireball plus Drive Rush is a very strong thing. Aki is almost built around Fireball Drive Rush as her, like, main strength. You get 2 consecutive mix-ups here. So there's the initial mix-up, where you do the fan, and then you've got a throw mix-up. You can go for a strike mix-up. You can neutral jump for a shimmy. And then even if your opponent doesn't fall for the initial mix-up like this, you still get a second turn on offense. It's kind of like getting 2 Oki situations in a row with this thing. And like I was saying, perfect parry, it is an option here. Like, perfect parry is still probably the best option against EX Fan, but there is so much variance in the way that Mai can approach behind the EX Fan. And the fact that even if you perfect parry it, you still have to plan around the falling fan, it just becomes a very one-sided interaction. It's not that there's nothing you can do against EX Fan. It's not completely uncounterable, but the reason it's such an insane move is just because purely by pressing quarter circle forward and 2 punches, Mai just completely, instantly forces you into a very unfair mix-up twice in a row. They did nerf it last season. They made it so that you can walk backwards after the first hit and try and avoid the second. But the reason that nerf didn't really achieve anything is because of this. You just do Drive Rush low. Like, if your opponent tries to walk backwards here, they'll just get clipped low and die. And even if you perfect parry it, a lot of the time, because Mai has multiple different ways of approaching behind it, sometimes she'll do Drive Rush, sometimes she'll do a forward dash, sometimes she'll just walk forward, and sometimes she'll jump here, right? And if you try and perfect parry into an intercept, like a button, a lot of the time, you'll just whiff the button and still get punished. Like, that happens a lot at high level. Pro players will perfect parry the fan and be unable to check Mai's approach behind it and still get hit by the falling fan. It's a very annoying move, I agree. Now, in terms of counterplay, I'll give you guys some tips. This is not going to be like a universal never get hit by this thing, but I'll give you a few tips. So like I said, perfect parry is definitely the main thing to look out for here. What I would strongly advise you do is to figure out which moves you have cause you to advance forward the most. So a good example of this is with Aki. Aki's stand medium punch is extremely useful for this purpose because you see how Aki takes a giant step forward for her stand medium punch? This is vital for this matchup because it means that if I perfect parry the EX Fan into Drive Rush like that, the forward movement means that I don't get hit by the falling fan and I can actually get like a full punish here. Yeah, you can do that. It's an option. But like I said, there's a lot of variance here because I'm pressing this stand medium punch on the assumption that Mai is going to instant Drive Rush. But if she delays the Drive Rush, or she jumps, or she does a forward dash, it's entirely possible this medium punch whiffs and I die. So that's why it's so scary to check. Another good option, and this is something that I've seen a few high-level players integrate, this is tech that works if you have a special move which puts you into the air quite quickly. And a good example of that is a regular DP. This is a interesting bit of tech that I've seen used by a lot of high-level players. So for example with Ryu, what you can do is you can actually try and do a medium DP to check Mai's approach. And the reason this is good, normally you would never ever want to do a non-EX DP. This would usually be suicide to check like a drive rush. The reason it's good against EX Fan is because something like this, do you notice how I get hit by the falling fan if I do medium DP intercept here? But the thing is, because I'm airborne from the DP, I get put into a very low juggle and get up off the floor. And the damage trade is in Ryu's favor. And if you're wondering why this is useful, why you'd want to do this, it's because of this. So this time round, I've got the Mai doing EX Fan and then blocking, right? To try and bait something. So if they try and bait here and I do the medium DP, that happens. So can you see that because I'm getting hit in the air, this happens and I just get knocked down and I take 240 damage? Because if this same situation happened with like a normal, for example, let's say I try and do this with a normal, that happens. So a normal interrupt here leaves me minus 21 grounded point blank. So Mai can get a trade combo here if you try and use a normal to interrupt. But because the DP is putting me airborne, it means I get knocked down and I just kind of reset the situation. So also, I guess just as an extra, I mentioned earlier about having moves that advance you forward. It's also useful to have special moves that advance you forward. So, for example, Ryu's heavy DP also has a lot of forward movement. So if you do a perfect parry on the incoming EX Fan, you can do normal into heavy DP to avoid the falling bounce. Like that. So yeah, take advantage of the forward movement to try and get out from underneath it, but it's a very silly move. Anyway, let's move on. People complaining about slow-ass JP command grab, meanwhile Hashogeki is out there committing war crimes? I've never seen much complaints about JP's command grab, maybe at lower levels, but JP's command grab is not the issue. I think there are some things about JP that are overtuned, but I definitely wouldn't list his command grab up there. I think that's kind of a skill issue. But talking about Ryu's Hashogeki, yes. Hashogeki has been buffed consistently and is now one of the best moves in the game. Especially, I think light Hashogeki is the best move in the entire game when it comes to ending jab strings. If you do something like this, Ryu gets a huge combo off this. Normally, jabs in this game are kind of the end of your turn. So a lot of people will press after jabs. And the fact that he can get these ridiculous, like, counter-hit trade launches is wild. And they lead to combos anywhere on screen. This thing is also completely safe on block. -3. And it's plus on burnout. Also, it's not just light Hashogeki. I should bring this up. So a lot of people are focused on light Hashogeki right now. But I think actually equally powerful and equally difficult to deal with is this string. If you guys go and watch Ending Walker play this game, he does this all the time. Crouch Heavy Punch EX Hashogeki. This is a gapless true block string that is +3 on block. And look how much drive gauge damage this thing does. It's like nearly 1.5 bars of drive gauge damage for blocking this thing. And because it's +3 and Ryu's back Heavy Punch is 7 frames, if you get caught pressing after this string, you just explode. I would strongly not recommend pressing 4 frame in this gap because you might lose 6,330 of your precious HPs. Yes, Hashogeki is very strong. And to be honest, it's one of those moves where there's not a whole lot of, like, reliable counterplay. If you know your opponent is going to do, like, a string into light Hashogeki, the best answer is basically either invincible reversal, perfect parry, or just block it and take your turn afterwards. I think you guys might notice a trend here. This is something I probably want to bring up in a future video, but have you guys noticed that whenever people talk about the most annoying moves in Street Fighter 6, have you noticed how almost all of them, the only counterplay is you have to perfect parry it, or you have to know it's coming and let rip an invincible reversal. So that applies to Mai's EX Fan, that applies to Light Hashogeki, that applies to Ken's Jinrai. I think any move where the only reliable counterplay is perfect parry usually ends up being a very frustrating move to deal with. just DI, bro. Yeah, DI works on stand jab, but it doesn't work on crouch jab. I don't know about stand light kick. No, it doesn't work on stand light kick either. Yeah, so I think just for like pure safety and reliability, honestly, my best solution for Hashogeki is just block it and take your turn on the -3. It's not great advice because a lot of Ryu players, once you start blocking, they'll just start doing like jab into throw. And this is not a tick throw, like this is not real. Jab is -1. But this will start working because Ryu players will condition you not to press buttons after lights. So it is kind of a mind game, but yeah. I think just blocking it or attempting a perfect parry is all that's really available to you here. It's not the most interactive move in the world. Oh, I was just asking who's complaining about JP's command grab, and then the next one is JP's command grab. Why the F does JP have a ranged command throw? I hate that shit. Okay, so, like I said, I'm going to be real with you guys. JP's command grab is not a very strong move. It's a good excuse to do some lab work, so let me explain some stuff about JP's command grab, because JP's command grab is basically a check to see if you've reached the point where you're parrying as a guess versus you're parrying on reaction. The thing about JP is he's incredibly good at punishing players who mash parry when they see movement, right? This is a really bad habit that a lot of sort of mid-level players have, which is once they see something happening, like the startup of a move, you just reflexively tap parry. And JP will destroy you if you do this. So what I would recommend doing, if you're struggling against JP's command grab, is go into training mode and record 3 different recordings. So number 1, you're going to do stand heavy punch into command grab. Like this. Number 2, you're going to do stand heavy punch into fireball. Like this. And number 3 is you're going to do stand heavy punch into fireball feint. Like this. I would start out simple. I would start out very simple. So enable all 3 recordings and then just try and punish the command grab. Hold down back on all 3 of them and then jump when you see command grab. Like that. It's very slow. I have pretty bad reactions, but even I can react to this command grab consistently. Do not autopilot parry. I think this is probably the issue. What you're probably doing is you're seeing a cancel and you're doing that. So this is a trickier one. So if you've got a hang of the baseline, which is just looking out for command grab, you can move on to the more advanced version of this. And what you want to do is you want to option select a perfect parry drive rush if you see fireball, or jump if you see command grab. And the idea being, if you see command grab, you jump. If you see a fireball, you parry. And if the fireball ends up being a feint, you option select by cancelling into drive rush. This one's a lot harder though. But yeah, something like this is a good drill to work on. That was a punish counter. Ken's Jinrai before the nerf. Now it's my charged fan. Okay, I'm seeing a lot of... It's not surprising, but there has been a lot of repeat appearances of Mai's charged fan. I don't think that's a coincidence. Light Hashogeki needs to be changed. Yeah, there's a couple of moves here which seem to be forming a trend. Okay. The one that drives me nuts is Bison's Scissor Kick. Okay, here's another good one to talk about. Definitely one of the best moves in this game and one of the most annoying. So they took his Scissor Kick from previous games, stripped away the charge requirement, and made it very hard to punish. Now, the thing is, light and medium scissors are -5 on block, but they do an unholy amount of pushback. So even if you have a good 5 frame, like Ryu's stand light kick, most of the time, if it's fairly well spaced, you should pretty much never get a punish here. Now, if your opponent is spamming Scissor Kick, I would say the best answers to this move is neutral jumping in the mid-range, so like here. Preemptive neutral jumps are very good. And a good thing against Scissor Kick is also walk up block, because if you're at this distance here, the Bison player will just scissors and it's safe. But if you just step forward a little bit and then block, you can force it into an unsafe range. I guess one other thing to mention about Bison is heavy scissors. This is the thing that I see people get caught out by a lot. So I mentioned light and medium are -5, and this is where the knowledge check kind of comes in. Heavy scissors, which is the one that goes nearly full screen, this one is only -4. I don't know why they made this version 1 frame safer, but I've seen a lot of people get caught out by this. So if you see the scissors is quite slow and it travels a lot further, be careful about punishing with a 5 frame or this will happen. So you need to use a 4 frame if you see that it's the animation for heavy scissors. Freaking Burn Knuckle. Alright, I guess we can talk about Burn Knuckle as well. I've seen that one come up a few times. See, I think Burn Knuckle is, in my opinion, nowhere near as hard to deal with as Bison's scissors. The thing about Burn Knuckle is that you have to be in a very particular spot for it to be useful. And I think it's very easy to avoid that positioning. So, if you're a Terry player, you always want to be at around this position, right? I would say like about 2/3 screen is kind of like the ideal range, because this is where Burn Knuckle becomes plus on block, so... yeah, that was +1. You can also tell, I don't know if people know this, but if you don't already know this, they do actually have a special screen shake effect in this game to tell you if the Burn Knuckle is plus or not. It's quite a subtle effect, but it's worth paying attention to because it is there to help you out. But the thing about Burn Knuckle is, like I said, for it to be plus, Terry players have to do it from a very specific range, which is about here. So what I like to do at this distance is be very mobile. So I recommend if you're getting blown up by Burn Knuckle, always try and like make it difficult for the Terry player to get the spacing right. Because if you start out here and then just take a half step back to here, then this happens. You want to make sure that your spacing is unpredictable. Also, walk forward block is good here as well, because it can make it -4, like that. So you can make it whiff by walking backwards, and you can also make it unsafe by walking forwards. So I actually think it's a strong move, I agree. I think Burn Knuckle can be very irritating, but I do feel like Terry has to work a little bit harder to make it safe, or even plus. And it's quite predictable when you're vulnerable to it most of the time. But yeah, focus on your footwork for this one. Basically, all of Akuma's kit is annoying. So true. Is this my burner account? Is this me? This guy hates Akuma. I'm right there with you, King. This is my alt account. Alright, we're getting towards the end here. I guess we'll end with this one. Blankable. Destroys drive like crazy, and unlike Honda, perfect parrying gives you diminished returns since you can't grab him for some reason. And if you hard read drive impact, Blanka is left in an airborne juggle state, so your punish options are limited. Blankable kind of has like 3 main punish options for Blankable. And usually it'll be heavy or EX, because the others are very unsafe. The basics kind of like safe, simple option here is just to attempt a perfect parry. Like just hold backwards and then tap parry just before he makes contact. Like this. Now, the mistake a lot of people make, and I think the mistake this person is making, is this feeling of like, I have to press a button straight away. Like, they perfect parry it and then this happens. Like, why is this so hard to punish? None of my normals are working right. It's really awkward. But the thing is, you have so much advantage here to do whatever you want. A lot of characters can just dash here. If you notice, I'm +14 after a forward dash here, and you get a full grounded combo. Most characters in the game should be able to just forward dash into a grounded punish. Also, when it comes to juggles, you still have a decent amount of freedom here. Like, obviously this varies depending on characters, but like Aki has some cool juggles that you can do here. You can do some neat things. Like this works. Going back to the other thing, it's kind of the same again with the DI. So this is a punish that I generally don't recommend people do in high stakes, but if you do a drive impact on heavy Blankable immediately before it makes contact at the last possible second, then it is possible to get a DI punish. Like that. And the reason that I don't generally recommend going for this is, one, it's character dependent. There are some DIs which have slight variances in their hitbox and they can whiff here. So this is not universal. The other reason I don't really recommend this is because if you mistime this even slightly and do it a little bit too early, then this happens. You whiff the DI and you're -20. So I'd be a bit careful with the DI punish. This is technically optimal, but a little bit scary if you get it wrong. What was the third way to punish? Oh, third way to punish is any air invincible moves, like DPs and stuff. You can do this on reaction if your reactions are on point. So I think I agree with quite a few of the submissions. I definitely agree that things like my EX fan, Ryu Hashogeki, that kind of stuff, definitely some of the most obnoxious moves in the game right now. Couple that I disagree with. Anyway, hope this gave you some useful tips, and I will see you guys all in the next video.